Is that okay?
Yep.
Oh, you come through good.
All right.
wanted to make sure everyone outside heard it. Come sit by our fire and let us share stories. Let me hear your tales of far-off lands, wanderer, and I will tell you of my travels. Share your experience of the holy with me, worshiper, and I will tell you of that which I find divine. Come and stay, lover of leaving, for ours is no caravan of despair, but of hope. We would hear your stories of grief and sorrow as readily as those of joy and laughter. For there is a time and a place and a hearing for all the stories of this world. Stories are the breath and word of the spirit of life, the power that we name love. Come, for our fire is warm, and we have seats for all. Come again and yet again. Come speak to me of what fills your heart, what engages your mind, what resides in your soul. Come, let us worship together. Our chalice lighter today is our speaker, Therese Langevin. In the presence of this fire, we hear the voice of our God, of our goddess, of our holy. You are on sacred ground. In the presence of the flame, in me, in you, in us, moving, resting, gathering, we are on sacred ground. In the presence of this fire, we are compelled to take up a torch, to carry a flame, to seek a sacred ground. In the presence of this spark, we are committed to light the fire of passion, of life, of holy work, to journey towards truth on sacred ground. Our opening words today are from T.H. White, his book, The Once and Future King. The weather is gloomy, cold, and rainy. The future King Arthur, a foster child commonly known as Wart, is restless and irritable, out of sorts. He wanders through his home in the castle of the Forest Sauvage, the estate of Sir Ector, the Wart's foster father. Everyone he tries to talk with, the cook, the falconer, the blacksmith, all shoo him away, too busy to put up with his whiny-ass self. He finally goes to see his tutor, the wizard Merlin, who lights his pipe for a smoke before beginning thusly.
The best thing for being sad replied Merlin, beginning to puff and blow, is to learn something. That's the only thing that never fails. You may grow old and trembling in your anatomies. You may lie awake at night, listening to the disorder of your veins. You may miss your only love. You may see the world around you devastated by evil lunatics, or know your honor trampled in the sewers of baser minds. There is only one thing for it, then, to learn. Learn why the world wags and what wags it. That is the only thing which the mind can never exhaust, never alienate, never be tortured by, never fear or distrust, and never dream of regretting. Learning is the only thing for you. Look at what a lot of things there are to learn.
Thanks. That is one of my favorite books, always has been. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Eastrose Fellowship, Unitarian Universalist. Everyone here in the chapel and all of you out there online, I know there are many of you. I'm Cynthia Hopkins, your worship leader this morning. Let's take a moment right now and greet each other, all of us gathered here. And also, let's get up and wave to the camera on the back wall to our friends at home. Hi there.
I've already been this morning.
I need to.
Detailing it right now so I can get it dirty myself.
We acknowledge the lands where our fellowship gathers and are home now to our widespread communities. These were the traditional village sites of many, many tribes: Multnomah, Wasco, Gresham, Clackamas, Chinook, Molalla, and many other peoples who made their lives here. We thank the original caretakers of this land and their descendants who are among us still. In peace, may we share this land and honor one another. We have a very interesting speaker and topic today. Most of you here know, I think everybody here knows, Therese Langevin, who's been a member of Eastrose for many years. She's going to talk about this path is beautiful and crooked, just as it should be, how I got to Eastrose. Now that's her own phrase, beautiful and crooked, how she got to Eastrose. An earlier and appropriate title was Kitchen Witch. So I am sure we are in for a very fascinating talk.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I would like to start out by going over the 7 principles that Unitarian Universalists ascribe to. And what I'd like to do is that you guys would help me with this. I would like the congregation to read the adult principle, and then I would chime in with the children's version of the same principle. So we would go, you read one, and I read one, and you read one, okay? All right. So we can start out. We, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person. We believe each and every person is important.
Justice, equity, and compassion in human relations.
We believe all people should be treated fairly.
Acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations.
In our congregations, all people are accepted and we learn together.
a free and responsible search for truth and meaning.
We believe each person is free to search for what is true and right about life.
The right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and in society at large.
Everyone deserves a vote about the things that concern them.
The goal of a world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all.
We believe in working for a peaceful, fair, and free world.
Respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part.
We believe in caring for our planet Earth and every living thing that shares it with us.
Our opening hymn is "The Earth is Our Mother." It's in the teal hymnal if you want to check the notes. It's 1073, but the words will be on the screen. And please stand if you are able.
Out there is a tambourine and a Native American shaker. So whoever's closer to those two things, please grab them now. And just follow Jean's lead with the rhythm. You won't need your books. It'll all be up there.
I have a story for all ages. The story I chose was Anansi Does the Impossible by Verna Ardema and illustrated by Lisa Decimimi. Long, long ago, since I forgot the book at home, of course, long, long ago, when the earth was set down and the sky was lifted up, all folk tales were owned by the sky god. One day, Anansi the spider said to his wife, "Aso, it is wrong. The tales that our storytellers have told for generations belong to the sky god. I'm going to buy them for our earth people." Aso said, "Do you really think you can bargain with anyone so powerful? Anansi, I fear you are taking a morsel too big to fit your mouth." "Oh my goodness. Well, we shall see," said Anansi. And the very next day he went to the sky god. Then he hurried straight home to Aso. Anansi told her, "I have to pay a live python, a real fairy, and 47 stinging hornets for the stories. However can I manage that?" Aso thought and thought. Finally she said, "I know how to begin." And she whispered, "Pesa, pesa, pesa," in Anansi's ear. Anansi chuckled. At once he ran with Aso to the nearby river. There they sat on a log and waited. As they're waiting there, presently a python came slithering, wasu, 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 down to the water to drink. Anansi said in a loud voice, "It is longer than he is." "Not longer," shouted Aso. "Maybe just as long, but not longer." The big snake raised his hand. "What are you two arguing about?" he asked. "I say the log we're sitting on is longer than you are," Anansi answered. "But my wife says it is not." "See," hissed the python, "this small thing, I know I am longer. I feel longer." "Wait," said Anansi. "You look shorter to me." "I'll show you," said the python. He lay down on the log, putting his nose even with one end of it. "Your tail is just too short," said Anansi, and he gave the tail a pull. "Now my nose is too short," cried the python, and he wiggled back to this end of the log. "I know what to do," said Aso. "Tie his tail to the other end, then he can make himself longer." Anansi took a long bush rope and began winding it around the snake's tail and the log. Kapong, kapong, kapong. The python tried to make himself longer. He stretched and stretched, grunting. "Ooh, ooh." Meanwhile, Anansi kept winding until he had wound the rope all the way up to the python's head. When he had the snake tied tight, he cried, "You foolish python, you let me catch you. Now I'm going to take you to the sky god." And off he went, dragging the python behind him. When Anansi gave the huge snake to the sky god, his scowl darkened the sun. He said, "It is true, you have brought me the python, but you have yet to bring a real fairy and 47 stinging hornets." Anansi went home to Aso and asked, "How are we going to catch a fairy?" Aso thought and thought. Finally she said, "I know how." And she whispered, "Pesa, pesa, pesa," to Anansi. Anansi laughed. As Aso had suggested, he carved a wooden fairy and covered it with sticky gum from a mimosa tree. Also, Aso put a tiny dish of banana fufu in his hand. When the moon was bright, Anansi took, the make-believe fairy to the tree where the fairies like to play. He tied a long string to the wooden fairy's back and another to its head. Then, clutching the ends of the string, he hid behind some bushes. Presently, some fairies came tripping to the odum tree. They danced around it, blip, 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 and one of them cried in a tinkling voice, "Look, here is a stranger, and she has a dish of foo-foo." The fairy sister smacked her small lips. "Ask her to give us some," she said. So the first fairy asked, "Kind stranger, may I please have a taste of your foo-foo?" Anansi pulled one string, and the doll nodded its head. The fairy took a tiny taste. "Ooh," she said, "your foo-foo is delicious. Thank you." The wooden fairy said nothing. "Look," said the first fairy, "I told her thank you, yet she doesn't answer me." "Slap her spanking place," said the sister. The first fairy hit hard. Pop! Her hand struck. Let me go," she cried. The sister said, "Hit her again. That will teach her to let you go." The first fairy struck the doll with her other hand. Pop! And that stuck too. Quickly, Anansi pulled the strings. Now the doll with the fairy attached came bumping over to him. Kapak, kapak, kapak. The little fairy screamed, "Ee!" in her eerie little voice as she was being dragged away, and her sister shrieked, "Ee!" as they ran after her. Anansi soon outran these other fairies, and then he said to the one he had caught, "Little fairy, I'm going to take you to the sky god." And he did. When the sky god saw Anansi coming with the fairy, he roared, "How can a measly creature like you perform these impossible tasks?" But then he added, "I admit that the python and the fairy are here. Still, you have not brought me the 47 hornets." Anansi ran home to Aso and asked, "How are we going to catch 47 hornets?" Aso thought and thought. Finally, she said, "I know how." And she whispered, "Bisa, bisa, bisa," to Anansi. And Anansi laughed, "Hee, hee, hee." As Aso had suggested, he plucked a bottle-shaped gourd from a calabash tree, whittled a wooden cork for it, and filled it with water from the river. Next, he found a hornet's nest in a bush. Climbing high up a nearby tree, he tipped the bottle and let the water gurgle, guller, 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 down upon the hornets. "My brothers," called Anansi, "do you want a better shelter? See, in this calabash you will be safe and dry." He held out the empty gourd. The hornets buzzed around it. You know what's going to happen next. One flew in, and then another and another, and when Anansi had counted 47 of them, he popped the stopper in. "Little hornets," he said, "I'm going to take you to the sky god." And off he went. The sky god saw Anansi coming. At once he flashed his lightning, whoosh, 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 and beat his thunder, toom, toom, toom. Holding out the buzzing gourd, Anansi said, "In here are the 47 stinging hornets. Do you want to count them?" "No," cried the sky god. He threw up his hands in resignation and said, "Anansi, you have paid the price. The live python, the real fairy, and the 47 stinging hornets are mine. From now on, the stories belong to you." Anansi thanked the sky god, then he hurried home. That night, the people of the village gathered inside a circle of fires for storytelling. And Anansi told how he and Aso had managed to buy the sky god's stories. The people rejoiced, chanting, "Honor to Anansi, honor to Aso, honor to Anansi and Aso." And from that day to this, the folk stories of West Africa have been called Anansi tales.
I think you have a career as a professional storyteller. That was really good. That was great. Yeah. It's time for our offering. We know there is a great abundance in our world, a great abundance of suffering, of people homeless, hungry, frightened, lonely, in danger, sick, exhausted, and wondering when this abundant suffering shall cease. We know there is a great abundance in our world, a great abundance of love, of people caring, building homes for those who need them, feeding folks who hunger, comforting folks who are frightened, inviting folks who are lonely into company, creating peace and safety zones, healing and being with the sick, and welcoming the weary to a place of rest. We are the people of abundance, people who have known suffering and will know suffering. We are the people of abundance, people who have known love and offer our love as a blessing to our world. As we receive disappointment, anguish, and anger, we transform those curses into the blessings of hope, joy, and love. As we offer those blessings to this world, so our blessings increase. A smile of gratitude eases our hearts. The dance of joy sweeps us into the circle, and the light of this chalice changes our world. We are the change we wish to see through what we give. What change will you bless this world with today? As we offer those blessings to this world, so our blessings increase. Here at Eastrose, we share half of our offering on Sundays with a community nonprofit that we support. This month, we share with Our Just Future, formerly known as Human Solutions, whose new tagline is, working together for racial, housing, and economic justice in East Multnomah County, Oregon. If you're attending online, you can donate by visiting our website and clicking the donate button, or you can scan the QR code on your screen that'll take you there. We now gratefully receive the gifts of this congregation. Is the most heartfelt part of the service, where they get to share things that are weighing on them, or things of import that are joyful, things that touch our hearts that we want other people in the congregation to know about. If you're watching online, please take this time to write in the chat joys and concerns that you might wish to share with the congregation. Our administrator, Sherry, is back in the office this Sunday, and she will get those written down and bring them up to share from here. If you're here and want to share, please come. Well, just raise your hand so we don't all bundle up here at once. And then come on up to the front, turn and face the cameras if you're okay with that. And speak slowly and clearly. I don't think anyone here is masked today, because if you're masked, you have to speak a little louder. And I do have some pastoral news to share. The first one is sad news, and that is our former minister's mother, Patty Pomerantz's mother, passed away on Wednesday morning. Patty and her wife, Tony, were at the hospital with her when she passed, and they're going to be there for a while. I have an update on Katie Tenike. Charlene Woods and I went yesterday for a visit, loaded with pies and cookies, to see them at their home in the afternoon. We stayed for a couple of hours, and I can tell you both Tom and Katie were in really good spirits, and Katie was just so happy to see us and have us visit. We had a delightful visit. We talked about everything under the sun for 2 hours in the living room. Her speech is improving quite a bit. I asked her about reading. She says she's able to read more and comprehend more. You know, she had brain surgery. Well, those you don't know, she had brain surgery, so it's taking a while to recover some of these things. She's still pretty wobbly upright, though. So she's not going to be walking or jogging or running anytime soon. Her family is being tended by a terrific caregiver. We were really impressed, and we visited her with her quite a bit. And to our great surprise, this caregiver actually worked with Char's husband in Clackamas for a number of years. So there was a connection there that was really nice. And Katie said to be sure to tell you all that those cards you signed last week touched her very deeply, and she was most appreciative. Now, I was going to say, let's have an update on Sherry, but Sherry is in the office, and whenever she's done collecting the chat, she's going to come up here and let you all know how she's doing. So while we're waiting on Sherry, does anyone here want to share? Keen.
I actually have two joys. First one is, I just got back from a 17-day, 3,800-mile road trip through 7 states. And we've been to the Arches and the Canyonlands and the Anasazi areas and the Durango and Denver for the Red Rocks concert, and then up through Wyoming and across Montana into Washington for my brother's 70th birthday party, and then came home and stopped on the way home for my 50th music fraternity reunion. So we are back. We're trying to get caught up with all of the things that we didn't do during that time or that we're waiting before. We had a great time, and there's more details to come if anybody is interested, or if not, walk away from me. So that's one. The second thing is my brother, who has had the 70th birthday, who has had cancer, who is dealing with cancer, and has the good news, bad news. He's come to the end of the traditional chemo treatments that he can do. But there is a new treatment that is available, just come online in the United States, a nuclear medicine type thing that attaches, in the short version, it attaches a nuclear charge to any cancer cell in the body and depresses its function. Should give him at least another year. So what he thought was the end of his treatment cycle and everything, he's looking forward. And in his words, we thought last year's birthday might be the last one. He set a goal for this year's birthday. He has every reason to believe he'll have another birthday. So it's good news, bad news, but he still has cancer. We don't know what the treatment will be, but he's moving in that direction. He's very optimistic. So.
Oh, and I forgot to mention putting pebbles in the water for your joys and concerns. Also, while you're up there, would you do the ones I forgot to do? For Katie and for Patty. Thanks. Anyone else here would like to share? Come on up, Sherry. You can read these. No? Oh, okay, from Jan Applin. Would you put the pebbles in? From Jan Applin, my mother fell at home and broke her leg on Friday. She had surgery yesterday and hopes to be able to return home today. So, be thinking about her. From Jean Barrett, my friend Dave has been stressed as he is in search of a new living situation, and his son will be having surgery on Thursday. He is overwhelmed right now. Jean, if you're online, we're sending you our love. And an FYI, Phyllis Adams is joining us online from Pahrump, Nevada. I may be saying that wrong, but anyway. Go ahead, Sherry.
Okay. Hi, I'm Sherry, and I'm back, and it feels really great to be back. To be back at work. It's interesting to hear Keen talk about the cancer treatment. I had a mastectomy on September 14th, and I was thinking I'd be back in a week, but Cynthia was like, I don't know. So it took a few more weeks to heal. They also removed 26 nodes from my right side, so that's actually been as uncomfortable as the removing the breast, actually. So, but I've been dealing with the nerve pain, I guess, and so anyway, just this morning, actually, I woke up and I'm thinking the frankincense and myrrh, homeopathic rubbing oil might work, either that or the combination with the gabapentin that I'm taking. So I've been kind of doing a whole combination of Western and Eastern and Chinese and every medicine that seems to work. So anyway, I'm feeling better. I'm on the mend. I'm happy to be here, and thank you so much for your love and support. It really meant a lot. I've been crying a lot, just feeling overwhelmed with the love coming at me. So it really, really makes a difference. So, thank you.
We are really glad you're back. You can go. You don't have to stay up. You're good. You're good to go. Anyone else here? Yeah, Karen.
I'm Karen, and most of you know that I have a cleaning service, a business, and it's really small. And I lost a person. She found a job that, is more aligns with her passion. So it's good for her, but not good for me. And so if it's just hard hiring people. So if you know anybody that is kind, fastidious, and just kind of likes to work and laugh, just let me know. That'd be great. It made me have less legs.
Anyone else care to share? I just want to note that little Amos is here today. Yay! He's our joy. So now, Mary will place a heartstone in the water for all the joys and concerns unspoken, but in our hearts today. Thank you. We're going to sing Spirit of Life. Please remain seated. The words will be on the screen.
All the stirrings of
Okay. Again, good morning, good folk.
Good morning.
I call myself a kitchen witch, which means a nothing fancy kind of witch. I'm a crone, an elder, a middle-class white woman in the most privileged society on the planet. I try never to forget that. I try never to forget that I see through filters that I can't detect, but I assume those filters are always in place and always altering my perception. It's all television. My process is no longer scholarly. I don't look to dead white men to explain anything to me. I write poems and songs that are stories or conversations with myself or a lover or my muse or a straw man I've assembled just to knock down. Could I have the first slide, please? Music is crucial to me. Joni Mitchell's work has guided my efforts greatly from when I was quite young until today. I'm so glad to see her power as a storyteller is finally being recognized. I read you a story about Anansi, a storytelling trickster. Storytelling may be the most human thing that humans do. I offer you this version of my story, hoping that you will see me and my spiritual but not religious self a bit more clearly. Is this story true? Not so important. Is it helpful? Yes, indeed, to me. I see religions as human systems that describe our relationship with something supernatural. Religions established beliefs that prescribed behavior. For thousands of years, some people elevated themselves as system experts, either a privileged relationship with some deity or some special blood entitled them to lord over the rest of us in a hierarchy of ownership and labor. I'm not sure why we need to relate to something above nature. We are of nature, part of a beautiful, chaotic, mysterious web. We can't pin it down with human thought or speech without choking the life out of it. It asks nothing of us except to be. A more helpful story may be that religion is a human strategy to bind us into community, responsible to each other as kindred supporting spirits. Spiritual comes from root words that mean to blow or to breathe. We need to breathe, to live, to stay alive, to draw in that which sustains us. We don't have to work at breathing. Our bodies just breathe for us. It's managed in the deepest, oldest part of our brain. For me, spirit involves a sense of peace that is closely connected to breathing. My most profound spiritual experience was launched with LSD. I saw love in the world, breathing and glowing and transforming everywhere and everyone. I was very, very high. I knew this as a fact, 1,500 micrograms of a molecule synthesized from ergot on board, altering my senses and my thoughts. No magic, no divine revelation. It was just drugs. And yet there was magic, ephemeral and rock solid at the same time, realer than anything else that ever happened to me. Popeye says, I am what I am. And Paul Simon sings, I know what I know. I know that magic is real, and I'm certain that it does not exist on planet Earth in this here and now. I hold both these opposing thoughts in my mind together. Could I have the second picture, please? This is my buddy from Bill and Ted. Like many folks, I struggle with depression and anxiety and post-traumatic stress. But the story I like better is about post-traumatic growth and resilience. I believe, along with Keanu, that we have a reality problem, not a brain problem. We aren't wired for the speed of change and the storm of information that we've created, but we struggle, and our struggle strengthens us. Here's my first story this morning. Could I have the picture number 3? Yes. It was the baby boom, 1953, Gardner, Massachusetts. After Girl Scout camp, Pauline's senior year began, but not Pauline's period. Not on time, not late, not never. Oh shit. Did she pray for me to disappear? Pregnant, wayward, ashamed, another middle-class Catholic girl went away wearing her oversized sweater disguise. 1954, Dorchester, a neighborhood in Boston, St. Mary's Home, St. Margaret's Hospital. In April, Pauline delivered, and believing what they told her, that a home was ready and waiting for me, she left me behind. A newborn original sinner, nurtured in the tender black and white embrace of the nuns. As paper worked and legal timelines unfolded, in August I was adopted through the charitable Catholics of the Archdiocese of Boston. My birth name was Cynthia Ann Glinsky. And then it wasn't anymore. I became Therese Rita Langevin. Did I notice? And my spiritual journey began. The next slide, please. I was baptized Roman Catholic, probably twice. I dressed like a little bride at 7 in my white dress and veil, holding my brand new white leatherette missal in my white gloved hands to receive my first communion at the age of reason. The crux of the Roman Catholic Mass is that the priest magically changes bread and wine into the body and blood of Jesus. Not metaphorically, for real. Everyone told me that Jesus would come into my heart when the priest placed that flat, dry wafer on my tongue. I absolutely expected that to happen with my whole 7-year-old heart. I was terrified and thrilled that it would happen. Real magic. But it didn't. Not on time, not late, not ever. No Jesus, not in my heart, no magic, never. There was something bad about me. God didn't want me. My real parents didn't want me either. I was too ashamed to talk about it. My adoptive parents told me a nice story about how much they wanted me. But part of the story was that I came from Catholic charities, like God's used couch. The next slide. This is Saint Therese. I was named for my adoptive father's favorite saint, Saint Therese of Lisieux, a 19th century nun who desperately wanted to work as a missionary. Tuberculosis meant she never left the convent in France. Therese chose the Carmelite order, breaking off all contact with family and friends. What would push a 15-year-old girl to such extremes? Therese wrote Story of the Soul based on what she called the little way, the way of spiritual childhood, the way of trust and absolute surrender. Her book was published after she died at 24, and it was so influential that Pope Pius XI named her as a saint without the standard 50-year waiting period. Pope John Paul II named her a doctor of the church. Therese is the youngest of these 37 spiritual heavy hitters. Here's a story about stories. My dad gave me a book about the Catholic saints. Saints were crucified, beheaded, boiled, or burned alive, raped, mutilated, ripped to shreds by wild beasts. Awful, tingly stories about dying for God and the one true religion. I didn't want to die for the one true religion. There was something bad about me. I would go to hell. Walking home from school, I found a paperback book on the sidewalk one day. Bullfinch's Mythology, stories of Greek and Roman and Norse gods. Something really important snapped into place for me. This is where the Bible and the lives of the saints belonged, with all the other stories about gods with a little g. I wore out my library card reading mythology, fantasy, science fiction, folklore. I was off the hook if hell was just another story. The next slide is 22 Roy Street, where I grew up. Freedom Summer was about the time I started listening to the radio. Music was so much more than entertainment for me. The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. Pope John XXIII convened a brisk breeze that blew all the magic and mystery, the mumbling Latin, right out of the Catholic Church. We started singing Protestant hymns in English. We had folk masses with guitars, radical priests. My earliest memories are about trying to figure out what's really going on. I typed up stories and poems and songs. I would say there were too many assassinations in my childhood. My dad was the one who took me seriously. We walked and talked, and sometimes we went to Red Sox games, and he listened to me. In the next slide, we see my hometown hero, Abby Hoffman. New England was ground zero for the revolution. There were terrible fights with my parents. I can quote Joni Mitchell here. Going out, you get the 3rd degree. Coming home, you get the 3rd World War. Politics and drugs, Abby Hoffman, Bobby Seale and the Black Panthers, and me dating a black private school boy from the Bahamas. Lots of trouble that got me up and out one October night, headed for Boston, on the road, with a suitcase and a guitar. Boston, my lodestar. I was born there, I belonged there. My dad collected me on Boston Commons 3 days later. Back to Worcester and Dr. Paskovich, my first pelvic exam, and I'm still coming down from my first acid trip. I left again in May for a peace march in Washington, D.C., as a time of as much LSD as I could manage. Joni again. We are stardust, we are golden, billion-year-old carbon, and we've got to get ourselves back to the garden. A month later, I was arrested for panhandling in Detroit. My parents drove to Michigan to bring me home. I didn't stay. The next slide, please. I hitchhiked all over the US and Canada a few times instead of finishing high school. In Kansas City, I fell in love with the man who later became my 3rd husband. He was 22, and I was only 17. He didn't stay. My heart broke when he left. I settled into a halfway house for runaways. My parents paid for college. I got married. My husband said I didn't play guitar properly, so I quit playing. In September 1973, my dad's heart attacked him when he was mowing the lawn. I hated God for taking the wrong parent away. I moved to Minneapolis. I got divorced. I bought an electric guitar. I wanted to play rock and roll. The next picture, the Equal Blues, oh, back up there. There's one in between there. That one, the Equal Blues Amendment. I was hanging out in clubs every night, getting high and drinking. I could dance for hours. I got careless. I got pregnant. This was before HIV, by the way. The baby daddy was a drunk who kind of looked like Keith Richards. When I confirmed the pregnancy, I scheduled the abortion. I thought, little one, I can't care for you now. Come back later. Come some other way. Babies scared me. They were so helpless and dependent. I was barely able to manage my own life, but I figured I'd adopt a kid someday. Now we have the next picture. There we go. Yes, not exactly mom material yet, as you can see. This is 1987. I got into some bands. I met my 2nd husband, married and divorced, but stayed in the relationship for 13 years of gaslighting and emotional abuse. I was so relieved when he finally moved on. The next picture, the Heart of the Beast Puppet Theater. Every May Day in Minneapolis, the Heart of the Beast leads a parade to Powderhorn Park featuring 20-foot-high puppets. All the old hippies and the new pagans join musicians and dancers and kids from alternative schools and university students and people of color and the LGBTQ community to celebrate the seasonal drama of spring's triumph over winter. Watching the annual puppet show and dancing in the drum circles gave me chills and the strongest sense of communal spirituality every year. Another story, it's a fairy tale from 1988. Remember Pauline, who never got her period? The next slide. After high school, she married her childhood sweetheart, Paul, and they had a family, 3 boys. I was running away from home, and they were moving from Massachusetts to British Columbia. Maybe they passed me on the highway in their VW bus. I learned my birth name, found only one Glinsky in the phone book in Boston, I wrote a letter. The phone rang, and I heard my birth dad's voice for the first time. I took a Greyhound to Vancouver, BC to find my real family, Pauline and Paul, Gary, Scott, and Jeff. Finding my parents was great. The real payoff was finding those 3 smart, funny, scientific, musical brothers, my real brothers. The other big thing from 1988, I went to drug treatment. I went to meetings. People seemed to relate when I shared my thoughts. So I returned to school for a counseling certificate. I went to the University of Minnesota in a very progressive, person-centered program. I was another wounded healer working a spiritual recovery program, but the Christian overtones of the 12-step meetings bothered me. I began describing myself as spiritual but not religious. The next slide. There we go. I noticed that meetings with women were way more powerful than mixed groups. I started to read stuff by Starhawk, Mary Daly, Margaret Adler, Z. Budapest. I was interested in ancient archaeology, in matriarchal, pre-agricultural cultures, fat little ancient goddesses, tarot, feminism. A friend of mine had candles with pictures of the Virgin Mary all over her house, and I asked what was going on with that, and she said, well, the goddess has been hiding in the Catholic Church for the last 2,000 years in plain sight. I was like, duh, all right? My first experience with Unitarian Universalism, a witch spoke at the Minneapolis UU Church downtown, and I went to hear her, and I thought, UU, these are good people. I was interested in tarot and feminism, goddesses. I finished school. I worked for 5 years in a program for adults with traumatic brain injury who were still having problems with drugs and alcohol. Very interesting perspective, working with people who had some thinking problems. And then I went to a gender-specific women's intensive outpatient program. Lots of case management. I took a job, we got a grant, and I took the job as fetal alcohol case manager. And what I figured out after a while was not only was I preventing the next generation of babies from being exposed to alcohol prenatally, I was dealing with women who had themselves been exposed to drug and alcohol before birth. In the generation of women that was in treatment. Also, lots of domestic violence, lots of undiagnosed traumatic brain injury in that population. And women would get kicked out of programs for not following the rules. When the fact was they couldn't follow the rules because they didn't have the executive function left to follow the rules. Women in that program struggled to comply. They dealt every day with racism, sexism, economic inequality, domestic violence. They did not need to be told they were powerless by the 12 steps. So we used some different approaches with those women. I believe even now, I don't know how people get sober. I really don't, but I believe in now that people know what they need, that we're not the experts on what people need. They are their own experts. Okay, the next slide is the best story of all. I was 46 when I adopted Anthony. Finally, I felt grown up enough to parent, but I had no idea how much it would change me. Raising Anthony is the hardest thing I have ever done, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. Next slide. He was mad as lightning, sad as thunder. He carried an alphabet soup of diagnostic labels. His mom drank while she was pregnant. Losing his birth family through the child protection system was like getting his skin ripped off. He'd take meds, they'd work good for a month or two, and then they didn't work anymore. All the good parenting techniques backfired. I'd get 20 minutes of remorse and he'd be raring to go again. Couldn't even remember why he was getting consequenced. We survived because of video games and play therapy and state-of-the-art Minnesota supports that didn't follow us when we moved to rural Wisconsin. His meltdowns grew more dangerous as he got bigger and stronger. At 12, I had to place him away from home. I begged them, just keep him safe. I cried and knew that it would be long-term. All my advocacy would not be enough to protect him from the system where he was supposed to be protected. But the system itself is another trauma for kids. My third husband, Mike, convinced me to move to Astoria in 2007. We tried to bring Anthony home, but he wasn't ready, and he ended up in a program in Portland. Anthony has never forgiven me for taking him from the Midwest, away from his siblings and his birth mother and his fantasy of one big happy family celebrating holidays together. In Astoria, DHS child protection was the worst job ever. I got so depressed and anxious that I quit going to work, and they had to fire me for being too sick to work there. I taught for Lives in Transition at Clatsop Community College. I worked at some group homes for abysmal pay. I loved teaching, but I couldn't rely on it. It was term to term with no benefits, no assurance that I would get the 2 classes that I was eligible to teach. I moved to Gresham in 2013 to be closer to Anthony. I worked for the DHS Stabilization and Crisis Unit, supporting people with developmental disabilities, like my son, who were too unstable to live in private sector housing. People a bit more extreme than my son. The next picture, Anthony, slowly maturing. He had fewer, less violent outbursts, but the group home peers and staff triggered him frequently. Eventually, I thought he might do better at home. If he moved in with me, I could work full-time for him while retiring from my state job. And that decision enabled us to buy a small house in Gresham together, where we now live with our 2 dogs and our 9 cats and our bearded dragon. Okay, the last picture. However, I didn't have many friends in Oregon, and I knew I would need emotional support to begin caring for Anthony again. I didn't want to burn out. That's when I began looking for a community. I thought about the Unitarian Universalists because they seem to be the most liberal bunch, most welcoming, accepting folks out there, and I found the Eastrose UU Fellowship. I've been happy here. Although the structure and content of Sunday morning services is not really a comfortable fit for me, my values match the Unitarian Universalist principles, and I have found the support here that's made it possible for me to continue to support my son as a parent and as he's an adult with thinking problems, who will always have thinking problems. That's pretty much how I got to Eastrose, and once I got here, I was like, oh yeah, this works for me. I think the only other thing I want to say is that I work a lot with what's called acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT, and I guess my motto is, it's what you do in the next 10 minutes that really matters. There are so many things we don't have control over, but we have control over what we do in the next 10 minutes. And we can make a choice that matches with our values. I want to thank the people, the congregation, the members of the Eastrose Fellowship for their ongoing support in my beautiful, crooked, exactly as it should be journey. Thank you all.
think we should just end the service. I don't think we could top that. That was brilliant. That was wonderful. And that you trusted us enough to share all that is really important. And I feel the same way about this fellowship. Yeah. And if...
It's a big step for me to trust.
Yeah. Lots of people in this congregation, since I've been here anyway, have shared their stories. And if you want to share yours, you only need to let us know. You tell me, anybody on the worship team, we'll make it happen. We'll give you a podium. Okay, I know you're not crazy about the wording and all of the, yeah, but we're going to go through the rest of this anyway. We're going to have a closing hymn. Now, by the way, Therese selected the hymns today. And we are going to sing, and now I totally get this for you. We are a gentle, angry people. It's 170 in the gray hymnal. If you want to use that, the words will be on the screen.
And please don't make me sing solo.
Oh, yeah, please stand. Sorry.
So in your hymnal, the last verse has a wrong word in it. It's, we are a peaceful, loving people. And that'll be up there.
We extinguish this flame, but we keep its light in our hearts with its message of love and justice, taking it outside these walls to the world we live in until we are together again. I'll leave you with this benediction. We all emerge from, dwell within, are transformed by, and called back to love. May your mind be humbled with this mystery. May your heart grow hopeful by it. May you be sustained by this love always. I love hearing Mary play the piano. It's just so nice after 2 years of COVID shutdown, and we come back and we have live piano. It's so great. I want to thank all of the people who made this service possible. Our speaker, Therese, our AV tech, John, our musician, Mary, our song leader, Jean, and Keen, who brought the dahlias, and our greeter, Bonna, and I probably forgot somebody, but thank you. Yes, and our greeter, yes, we had 2 greeters, and Sherry in the office as well.
Oh, I did the coffee maker. Kim, the coffee maker.
Hallelujah, we had nobody signed up to make coffee. Thank you. Okay.
There's somebody named Cindy, the other
Yes. Remember to stay after church today for the potluck. It's normally the first Sunday of the month, but we had the cluster picnic last week, so we delayed it to today. And even if you didn't bring something, just stay. There'll be food. I want to have, who is going to come up and talk about pledge sheets? Oh, no, I'll just talk about the pledge sheets. Yeah, you should have received a letter in the mail this past week or so about your pledge, because we're changing our fiscal year, so we're doing things a little differently this year, and we have what we call a half canvas instead of a full canvas, and we're asking people to continue your pledge for a 6-month period so that we can switch over and match the fiscal year that all the rest of the churches in our area do, and so that we don't have to raise money during the holiday season. That's another good reason.
If you have any questions or complaints, call me Lynn.
Talk to Lynn. And if you have your forms with you today, you can leave them with Sherry in the office. I left mine in there today. So you're asked to please continue your pledge, or, you know, given inflation, maybe up it a little bit. So now well, before we get to the online auction, I want to talk about, last Sunday I announced about Tara Toller taking on, and I said RE coordinator, should have said family ministry coordinator. Well, Tara and I met this Friday afternoon, and we made a stab at reducing the enormous number of books in the children's area. We spent 2 hours sorting, donate, toss, because a lot of those were paper, you know, spiral bound training things from 40 years ago, and then keep. And we're gonna keep at it, but it is, you may have seen the picture in the pedals, it's an enormous task. And if you are interested in helping sort, let me know, or let Tara know. There's a link in the pedals. You can contact her through email. And it was very interesting. We had a contest after a while to see who could find the oldest copyright date. It started out, oh my gosh, this is from 1990s. Oh my gosh, this is from 1981. Oh my gosh, this is the year I graduated from high school, 1965. Okay, and then we found, Tara won. She found one that had a late 1930s date in it. So, okay, so a lot of this stuff has been around for decades, not used, and we're clearing it out. Okay, so that there's room for the new stuff that Tara is going to be working on with the families. So now we'll talk about the online auction, because that's coming up, and I'm going to have Katie come up and talk about that.
Hello. The online auction website is ready to be viewed. You can't make any bids yet because it doesn't start till 10 a.m. on the 13th of October, which is Thursday. The URL for it is in Petals, and we will send out a couple reminder emails that tell you how to get to it. And you'll need to register an account. If you already did it 2 years ago when we had our online option, you'll probably still be in the system, but just go ahead and register. There are online payment methods, yeah, so it's going to be from 10 a.m. on Thursday the 13th to 10 p.m. Friday the 14th, and then we have the party here. So anything that you win in the auction, you can pick, if it's an object, you can pick it up at the party on Friday, or you can arrange with the donor to meet up and exchange. Yeah, I just wanted you to be looking for those emails. If you get Petals, you'll receive an email. If you don't know what I'm talking about and you want to be on our email list, just let me know and we'll get that done. And then also, we'll post a link to it on our Facebook page, so you'll be able to see it there. Or, yeah, I think so. I think we'll do that. That's it, although we're going to be, instead of doing a live auction where we're having lightning rounds and all that, we're going to be, you can basically purchase a $25, $50, $100, there might be a $10 in there as well, donation to the Eastrose, and then we are going to be splitting that with Mind Spring Portland, which is a group that provides food and clothing and justice programs in the Portland area. And that's it. Was there anything else I need to say?
Cash and checks only.
Oh, yeah. So if you are...
For Friday night.
For Friday, okay, for Friday night. For Saturday?
I'm sorry. Saturday.
Okay, so Saturday for the party, we're going to be doing raffles, and we are, for baskets, gift baskets that have been donated, and we will only be able to accept cash or check. If you, but the purchases on the online auction will probably need to be made through, they need to be made through the website. Now, I 100% don't know that. There may be a way for you to pay for it here by cash or check. I'll know later, but I think you're.
Put it in the letter.
Yeah, we'll put it in an email, but the best option is really to pay online if you can. But we'll work with you if that's not possible for you. Yeah, and if you're not online at all and you want a catalog, the site that we're using allows me to print out a PDF of all the items. So I'll be doing that, and I'll probably bring it here to drop off on Wednesday, so you can pick it up here. Well, let me know after the service if you need a catalog. Okay?
Okay. Did you want to?
Is there something else being said about the auction?
No, Carol couldn't come today, so. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, this is called flying by the seat of your pants.
Yeah.
Carol Ross is in charge of food for the auction. And I'm for the auction party, which is on Saturday from 1 to 4.
1 to 4.
1 to 4, okay. So far, we'll have cheese and crackers, a few things that people are bringing that aren't categorized, some tea sandwiches, some deviled eggs, and not much else, and there's a lot of blank spaces. I'm not going to put this back out there after the service. I'm going to keep it in here so I can keep an eye on it and keep an eye on you.
Stand by the door.
Please.
Here's a pen.
Oh, here's a pen. All right. Please sign up to bring something just a plate of something for food for the party.
Finger food.
Finger food, yes, finger food. We're going to try not to have any forks. If somebody forgets, we might have some. But yes, finger food, please. So please sign up and please come to the party and have a good time.
There will be music and dancing, I understand. Yes, as well as yummy food.
And no partners needed for the dancing.
Oh, no partners. We're Unitarians. You can do whatever you want.
Let her go.
And now Keen asked to give an announcement.
This is a busy month. On October 24th, we have invited Readers Theater Gresham to come and do a performance of a reading called Freud's Last Session. And this literally is something that you can bring any of your friends to, whether they be devout Christian, Unitarian, other. What's that? Witches are more than welcome. Basically, what you have is a fictional discussion between Freud in the very last weeks of his life and C.S. Lewis at the prime of his career on the eve of World War II, at the beginning of the bombing of London, in London, where there is this discussion of good and evil and religion and God and sex and everything else you can imagine in an hour and 10 minutes. And I saw it about 8 months ago, and I said, this needs to be at the church. This is something that is just so Unitarian. It's so much forth principle of search for truth and meaning. And it's so much a thing that you could bring any of your friends to and invite them into our chapel, whether they be Unitarian-based or otherwise based. And I would encourage you to be thinking about it and thinking about people that you might want to bring in so that we have a good crowd here. It's a precedence I'd like to set, and I think it's a vehicle that we could use for getting people into our facility and into our lives. And that's what I would like to see. So it is 7 o'clock, Monday, the 24th of October, here. And it's free.
It's free.
It is free. So we will probably have coffee and maybe something else to go along with it. And there'll probably be an opportunity for a discussion afterwards if we choose to, or if you choose to stay for it. So please support it. We need to have people here to make it something that could be repeated, and it's a way for Readers Theater to expand their audience. It's a way for us to expand our reach. So, thank you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
And Mary, I have one more
forgot that in addition to food sign up, you may sign up to help set up on Friday evening. Am I supposed to be in the room? Or help clean up after the, or Friday afternoon, sorry.
Yeah, and I think
Clean up after.
that if you have,
Saturday afternoon, I'll get this, the day of the party, the day, time out. Hi, I'm Jean. The party's on Saturday. On Friday evening at 7 o'clock, people are needed to help set up.
and bring card tables if you want to loan them.
If you want to bring a card table, you may work, I think we'll have an, I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Carol on that.
Yeah.
And if you can stay after the party on Saturday afternoon to help clean up, you can sign up here too. Thank you.
You're sure you're done now? See.
Well,
Okay, I just have one more announcement, and that is about next week's service, because this is a very special speaker. He is greatly sought after. We're doing a pulpit share with Mid-Columbia UU, and it's Dr. Randy Woodley. I don't think we have a picture of him. He's going to be speaking on creation justice. Reverend Dr. Randy Woodley is an activist, scholar, author, teacher, wisdom keeper, and Cherokee descendant recognized by the Kituwa Band, who speaks on justice, faith, the earth, and indigenous realities. He is the author of numerous books, including Shalom and the Community of Creation and Living in Color. We will have the doors open and you can attend here. We'll broadcast on the screen, but you can also, if you prefer, watch from home. Check Petals for details on the link. However, they start at 10 a.m., not 10:30. So don't miss out on the first half hour. Show up at 10 a.m. So that means you need to get in here a little before 10 at least. Okay? And so our service is now ended. If you're attending online, go ahead and exit YouTube and connect to Cafe Conversations via Zoom. And those of you here at Eastrose are invited to remain, have some coffee, thanks to our lovely Kimberly, and visit. We hope to see you all next week. Come back, bring a friend.